Hey guys, it's Annie. I wanted to show you today exactly how I make my Super Suds cleaning soap paste. I'm starting from the beginning. As you can see, this is actually me stirring in my lye, my potassium hydroxide, into my glycerin on the stove using my stainless steel pot. And I heat it up very gently. This stove that I'm using it's an electric stove, and it's got just sort of a dial. I keep it between about 4 and 5. And then I just kind of stir it. Glycerin's really thick at room temperature, so it's very thick and syrupy here. Just really kind of trying to get it incorporated so the heat can dissolve the lye. Then I'll be able to add it to my warm oils. I am editing out a fair amount of in-between time here where I'm not stirring and I'm just kind of letting it heat slowly. Overall, I heated and stirred very gently and slowly for about 15 minutes until all of my lye was completely dissolved and ready to go. One thing I noticed with this batch too, and it does happen to me sometimes, I use the same spatula to stir my coconut, olive, and castor oils together in my crock pot. And I did wipe it clean before stirring my lye and glycerin, but I didn't really scrub all the oils off. And what ends up happening as I'm stirring the lye, there will be little tiny saponified bits of oils that'll kind of float to the top of that lye solution. I end up straining that out. It's barely anything. But I do strain it out just to be sure that it's not getting into my final soap, and I really just have to remind myself to really scrub my spatulas in between so that doesn't happen again. You can start to see those little bits forming at this point, kind of at the top of my pot. Now, when the potassium hydroxide dissolves into your glycerin, it is going to fizzle and bubble up. That's why you want to keep your heat low, or it is going to just boil over and go all over the place, so be careful. I've noticed that the best way to check that it is all totally dissolved is to kind of remove it from the heat. The bubbling will then go down, and you will be able to kind of see through it at that point and see if there are chunks of lye still in there. I'm sort of double checking and triple checking this because there is those little bits of oil floating at the top of my lye because of my oily spatula. But you're stable. You can tell the difference between a lye flake and a piece of oil. So just double checking that it's all completely dissolved before we add it to the oils. We're getting close. You can really see here too the floaty oil bits on top, and you know, hindsight, I probably shouldn't be using this as the example in the video, but whatever, I strained it out. You can still see that it's floating oil on top though. The lye is pretty much all the way dissolved, so I'm getting ready to strain it and put it in my crock pot with my oil. So here we go. Those are already melted, just completely liquefied. It is mostly coconut oil, fair amount of olive oil, and just a little bit of castor. I'll give you the exact recipe, but it's pretty easy to mimic that yourself. Straining it out, as you can see, just a tiny, tiny little bit, but enough to make it look a little gunky and weird, so I did want to strain it. It's just my oily spatula. I'm getting every little drop out. It's hard to hold the container, hold the strainer, and also try to maneuver a spatula to get every last drop out, so. My most favorite thing about the glycerin method with liquid soap is that it goes to trace within like literally seconds. Watch this. Alright, blending it. Not only is a stick blender aerating it, but it is emulsifying it, so it's, you know, getting kind of milky looking. Just pulsing it because there's not a lot in the crock pot. Pulsing it together. This particular recipe doesn't ever get thick until it's cooled down either, which is quite interesting. It doesn't turn into a liquid soap paste, and boom, look. Look at it immediately just becoming translucent. The only reason it's semi-opaque right now is the air bubbles from the stick blender. But this video is only at 1.5 times speed, so it was literally under a minute in real time. That's how long it took to trace up. So yeah, let's go ahead and let it cook for a bit. Okay, so I let it cook for probably about 45 minutes. This was early in the morning and Tessa was getting up, so you know, went up with her and did breakfast and came down to check on it. 45 minutes later, passed the Zap test, it's perfectly cooked, completely translucent and liquidy, as you can see. I was having a really hard time getting my camera to pick up my thermometer with the light. That is 292 degrees. This soap paste gets super duper hot. First time I made it, I kept thinking I need to cook it longer because it was liquidy, but it will totally gel up, as you'll see in the photos. Once it's, you know, just not 300 degrees, it will gel up. So, yep, there it is right now. Just gonna stir it up, make sure all that little, you know, it's all completely mixed in. Just a little bit of froth on top from blending it before, but that's totally normal. I am going to turn some of this into scouring paste as well, which I'm excited to show you about. I did save some of this paste to sell as just paste. It's 12-ounce tubs that I've got for 12 bucks in my Etsy shop, free shipping. But the rest I turn into scouring paste, which is also available in my Etsy shop. I take, I've made this before, so I know how much the whole batch yields. I, you know, subtracted the 24 ounces that I took out of that to have separate, and what I had left, I had an equal amount of baking soda, and I measured my essential oil blend. Boom, there it is. So it's soap paste weight equal to the baking soda. That is my mix. And I pack it with essential oils too. This happens to be lavender, lemon eucalyptus, lemongrass, and sweet orange. Oh, it is so good. It's my personal favorite. It's easier to blend it up too when it's hot, so that's why I am doing it while it is still hot. Do be careful, because as I tried to show you before with the thermometer, it is really hot. Well beyond boiling point. It doesn't boil because it's not water, but it'll burn your skin if you get that hot soap paste on you. So please do not splash it onto yourself. Be very careful. I give this just a few pulses just to really kind of dampen the baking soda and break up some chunks. I probably should have strained it, but my strainer was wet from before, so I honestly didn't even think of it. But if you have chunky baking soda, it would not hurt to strain the chunks out before putting it in. I had to break up a lot of chunks with my spoon and with the stick blender. My whole house still smells amazing too, like these essential oils. It really, oh, it's a really bright scent. And I like that I can use a cleaning product in my house that I can breathe the scent of it in and not worry about weird, creepy fumes. It's like, yeah, Pledge smells good, but you're not really supposed to, not really supposed to huff Pledge. This, you can sniff it all day and it's not going to hurt anybody. Really just stirring and stirring and stirring away over here, trying to break up all the baking soda bits. Try not to make it sudsy at the same time because it is sudsing up a little bit. I ended up getting about 5 8-ounce jars from this as well. I poured it while it was still hot. Funny enough, the deli tubs that I poured the clear paste without the baking soda, I poured that in at nearly 300 degrees. Did not warp the deli tub. It's about 195 right now. It's hardly registering on the camera, but that is 195 degrees right now. But the plastic jars that I put the scouring paste in, I put the hot paste in at 195 degrees or so, maybe a little bit cooler by the time I poured it. Totally warped some of the jars, so it's way easier than stuffing it in there once it's already completely firm. You'll have to scoop it out with a spoon or whatever, but it'll work. With the little bit of paste I had left over, I decided I would do a couple examples of dilution. So you guys know what you would be getting if you got or made paste like this and wanted to dilute it for liquid soap. So this is a scouring paste with the baking soda, not the plain paste. This is equal weight paste to water. Pretty thick, pretty, it's kind of like frothy-like, but that's just the way the baking soda makes it look. If I were to leave this out and just, you know, in the air without covering it, it would gel up and like really dehydrate pretty quickly. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and add one more part water and we'll see what it looks like then. Alright, I had to let it settle a bit because I kept stirring it in, but I wanted to show you this is 2 parts water, 1 part soap. And there is some froth on the top, as you can see there. Some of that is also the baking soda, which eventually, actually you see that on the bottom there. It will eventually separate out if you add too much. This I don't think is too bad. If you were to have a larger amount, it's not going to be like half and half looking like it is in this tiny little container. This is just all I had left, so I couldn't really test it with more. And of course I kind of shook it up on my way walking over. You can kind of see the gradient here. This is my jug of liquid soap I have down here for cleaning up. It was probably about that much. This is a gallon container. Tiny little bit across the top, really just to where this lip is. A little bit below. That was how much baking soda solution-y stuff was kind of floating at the top. This I diluted probably more than I would recommend for you to dilute. This is probably about 4 parts of water in 1 part of soap. I just eyeball it when I'm doing it for myself too, and I kind of want to get the most use out of it, so I water it down a lot. That's just what I do, but there's that little bit of baking soda that floats on the top when you dilute it too much. I would recommend, if you are going to dilute it, equal parts soap and water, or 2 parts water and 1 part soap, and you're gonna get still a pretty heavy-duty cleaning solution. This is all just lathery foam on the top here. A little bit of baking soda that separates, but overall it's still going to be a powerful cleaner and you're going to get a lot out of it. Or just leave it as paste. I put it on a sponge and I go to town if I've got a really icky job to get to. But if you want to dilute it, that would be how you do that. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Bye!